This is the Kevin Trudeau Show.
I am exposing the corruption in government and in major multinational corporations. We're telling you the things that they don't want you to know that will make your life better.
Hey, welcome back. Kevin Trudeau here. Everything they don't want you to know about. Thanks for joining the Kevin Trudeau Show. We broadcast every Wednesday at 1 o'clock and every Monday at 1 o'clock. I guess we should say every Monday at 1 o'clock Chicago time and every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Chicago time. But not only should you subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell button so you get notifications, I'm going to start putting up new shows on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe even Saturday, and even do maybe a scriptural show, biblical show based on scripture on Sunday. The principles, the biblical keys to success. It's not going to be church, but it'll be really interesting to talk about how the spiritual text, whether it's the Quran or the Mahabharata or the Ramayana or the Vedas or the Zohar or the Torah, Old Testament, New Testament of the Bible, what's in there, and maybe I can explain some things to open up your eyes that many of the preachers aren't clearly explaining, since I've studied all this in depth most of my life. So that could be coming. So make sure you subscribe, share the channel, leave comments. Very important to leave comments. Leave comments on other people's comments. And I mentioned before that censorship is alive and well, not only in America, but all over the world. Things are being censored here on YouTube. They're being censored across the internet. Make sure you go to Rumble. There's more stuff that I put up on Rumble that will absolutely have me shut off on YouTube. So I'm kind of very nice here on YouTube, but I'm revealing more things, controversial things. They'll call it misinformation. It's opinion and expression of First Amendment free speech rights. That's what it is. But the government and the mainstream, they work together with the CIA. They don't want you knowing stuff. That's why when I authored the book, which is right over there, Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About, it was about stuff that the government and big corporations don't want you to know. They want to keep you dumb. And they're using censorship to do it. So definitely go to Rumble and make sure that you check out. There's a ton of stuff on there that's not here on YouTube. And if you want to binge watch anything, binge watch this show. Make sure you share it. We got to get the numbers up to keep me here on the air. Otherwise, I am locking up and closing up shop. I'm going to give it a few more months, but these numbers got to go up dramatically. And that's not on me. That's on you. You got to share it. You got to tell people about it. You got to post these videos on your X and Instagram and Facebook and your all the different social media accounts. You got to tell people about it. Get people out there watching the show, leaving comments, subscribing, hitting the little notification button, and get this information. Today is your lucky day because I'm going to do something I've never done before. Outside of the highest levels in the Global Information Network for the highest level members, and also some of our high level partners in the Kevin Trudeau Fan Club. By the way, if you're not a partner with me in the Kevin Trudeau Fan Club, consider going to the Kevin Trudeau Fan Club and becoming a partner. It's only $25 a month. I don't get any of that money, by the way. It goes into the fan club. It pays the expenses. This is how we pay for the show. Otherwise, the show shuts down. This guy over there gets a salary, and partner's money pays his salary, pays for the rent, pays for the lights, pays for the computer, the cameras, and everything. I don't see a penny. And anything that's left over goes directly to the U.S. government, to the Federal Trade Commission, to pay that $37 million judgment that I got, which I think is completely unfair, completely unjust. But I have it, and I have a rule. I pay my bills. And even though I don't think it's justified, I think it's ridiculous, I think it's outrageous, I think it's draconian. Even the judge himself said it was a draconian judgment. He still did it. But I'm going to pay. So I'm doing this for free, just so you know. So go to the fan club, and for $25 every month, I do a live Zoom call where I answer all your questions. So the partners come on the Zoom. I do the Zoom from my house, very casual, and I answer all the questions from the high-level partners. So consider becoming a partner. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you something. A lot of people know me as the Infomercial King. right? I was called the infomercial king, the master of modern day marketing, a marketing genius, a marketing guru, and a lot of other wonderful things by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Sun-Times, all these big, the Sydney Times, London Times, Los Angeles Times, a lot of times. Big newspapers. Again, I was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. That's kind of a big deal. Because not a lot of people made the front page on the Wall Street Journal, and a lot of people didn't make the front page of the New York Times on Sunday. That's a big, big, big deal. And I was on front page of all those newspapers. Because what I did in marketing, with TV infomercials, with direct mail, a lot of people don't know my background. Print advertising, a lot of people don't know my background, was record-breaking. And to do it at such a young age was mind-boggling. And it was because of the training I got in the Brotherhood. I got specific training in the Brotherhood. I learned how to use the mind to manifest goals, dreams, and desires. And I did. Now, some of you say, well, how come you didn't manifest this and how come you didn't manifest that? Listen, what your goals, dreams, and desires and mine are very different. Everyone has different dreams and goals. One person wants a mansion worth $150 million. That's his goal. And he wants to have servants and Rolls Royces and Ferraris and a private jet. And he wants to have a big, huge company. That's his goal. Now, I had those things. That really wasn't my goal. I just happened to have a lot of those things. Not $150 million not $150 million mansion, but mansions worth millions and millions and millions of dollars all over the world, not just one. And I had the Rolls Royces, and I had the Ferraris, and I had the butler, and I had the chefs, the private chefs, and I had the maids, and I had the driver, and I had the Bentleys, and I had the Porsches, and I had the AMG Mercedes. Okay, I had the private jets. I've stayed in the most expensive hotel suites in the world. And I'm not saying this to brag or anything. And you know, and some of you don't know, but my businesses have done in today's dollars, the companies I've been associated with, the companies I've owned, if you add them all together, it's estimated of like, I don't know, 20, 25 billion in sales worldwide. Nobody knows for sure. It's huge money though, for clearly. So I've manifested a lot, but personal wealth acquisition was never my thing. Spiritual liberation and freedom was. That was the main track that I was on, and that was kind of my secret track in the Brotherhood because I was doing some very powerful things with the mind and spirituality and so forth. And the lifestyle was there so that later on, when my mission came to be a public teacher of this material, I could justify saying, I know this stuff, and I don't just know about this stuff. One of the things that was powerful was knowing how, the exact how to manifest goals, dreams, and desires. And I told this story at the high-level training for the Global Information Network members, and I'm going to tell it to you. Back in the 80s, I had a company called the American Memory Institute, which was the largest memory training school in the world. We taught people all around the world, hundreds of thousands, over millions of people, how to develop a near photographic instant recall memory. So they could walk into a room, meet 30 or 40 people, and remember everybody's name. Or a student can study for an exam and remember everything for the test time. Or you could remember and make a speech without notes. You could remember things to do, appointments, directions. Basically have this superpower memory, this instant recall ability. And I was teaching these seminars around the world. It was fun, and it was ridiculously profitable. We were making millions and millions and millions and millions in profits teaching memory training. And I had a crew of guys that we would go out and we would do speeches and talk about the memory course. I would do interviews on radio shows and TV shows, talk about the memory course. People would then call and they would purchase a ticket to one of the memory seminar courses, workshops that we had around the world. And I would teach many of these, and I trained guys to teach the memory course as well. And I train guys how to sell the memory course, how to make speeches and presentations to sell the memory course. And I train guys on how to teach the memory course. But I still was out there selling it, and because I love to do it. And I was doing the radio shows and TV shows, and I was on all these different shows. I remember one time I was on a radio show in New Jersey, and this fellow calls up and he says, Kevin, I'm so glad to talk to you. I bought your memory course. It was the best thing I ever did. I said, well, why is that? He goes, well, I'm in the stock industry, you know, the investment world on Wall Street. And he goes, and what happened was when I took your memory course, I committed to memory all 1,500 of the New York Stock Exchange companies and their stock symbols. And when I went into my interview for a job I really wanted, there was over 100 people applying for the same position. And I told them about my powerful memory. So they tested me. And they were blown away. They would say, hey, Charlie, come in here. You got to check this guy out. Because every time I went in for the follow-up interview, I would remember everyone I met. So I would call everyone by their first and last name. Hey, Joe Sulo, good to see you. Franklin Motello, good to see you. He goes, I was like a freak show. He goes, I obviously got the job. I've gotten 3 promotions since then. I make speeches without notes. He says, I'm making more money than I could ever imagine because of this memory power. He said, but the best part is everybody thinks I'm smart. And he goes, I'm not too sure if I am, just because I can remember everything, but I certainly appear to be a genius. So I would do this, and it was a lot of fun and very, very profitable. One thing you have to do, though, if you want to manifest goals, dreams, and desires, and if you watch the Peter Sage interview on one of my previous shows, or watch the 10 Steps to Manifesting, if you're a GIN member that I gave at Leadership Weekend, or have gone through the Your Wish is Your Command training, or the Success Mastery course training that I've done, or the Science of Personal Mastery course training, you know that in order to manifest something, you have to be uncomfortable with your current position. There has to be something that is driving you to change, or driving you to manifest something that you don't currently have. You can't wish, because wishful thinking doesn't relate to anything. You can't want something, because that's putting out the feeling of lack. And wanting means the universe is going to give you situations, events, conditions, circumstances, and people so that you're always wanting, but never having. You have to need it. You have to need something. That is a burn. That need comes because of pain. And when you need something, you can't live in need, because then you'll never get it, because then the universe will always make sure you're feeling it need. But when you need something, that's when you can go and experience contrast. In other words, you know what you don't want clearly, and it's giving you a burn, a feeling of pain. So now you need to change. You need something different. That's when you can clearly define what you do want. And then you focus on what you want. You see yourself in possession of it. And then you feel now as if you were actually in attainment of it. Then you release attachment to that outcome by saying, and it's okay if it never happens, while still maintaining that feeling as if you did actually have it. That's when the windows of heaven open and stuff starts coming in. You're broadcasting on a theta beta wave. If your hippocampus is big enough and you've learned how to broadcast on theta, instead of broadcasting on the slave wave or the poverty wave of beta coming out of your brain. Well, I knew this, and I was happy. We were traveling around the world, young guys in our 20s making millions of dollars. This is back in the 80s. I mean, that's huge money, driving Porsches and Ferraris and Rolls Royces and everything in our 20s, you know, getting custom clothes, I mean, dropping money everywhere, Rolex watches, diamond rings worth millions. I mean, I had $1 million worth of jewelry. If you go back and look at pictures back then, going to fancy restaurants, everything was just like the best of everything. I mean, you know, it's like a hip hop star. The money was just like flowing like milk and honey. So it's hard to get uncomfortable. But I wanted to show all my colleagues how the manifestation process worked. Because people were coming up to me and saying, hey, listen, you got this great life, but, you know, were you lucky? I mean, things just kind of fell into place. I go, well, I manifested it. I manifested what I wanted. All right, so I have to manifest something different to show you that it actually works. This is how it happened. So I sat there and I said, okay, well, there's a bunch of guys sitting in the room. I'll show you how it works. I says, I am going to now really think about my current situation and try to find something that I don't like, which was hard to do. But I thought, I'm traveling. I have to work every day. I have to go out, put my suit on, go out and do speeches. I have to teach the training, because if I don't train the salesmen, if I don't train the instructors, if I don't do some of the instructing, if I don't do some of the selling, the company's not going to continue to grow. So a lot of the income has to do with my ability to perform. If I took a 3 or 4 month or 6 month vacation or a 1 year vacation, the income's going to just collapse in. And now I thought, I don't like that. I don't like having to work. I want to do nothing. I want to travel the world for a year and take a world tour and just do nothing for a year. Just enjoy and spend money. That's what I want to do. And I want money to be pouring into my bank account, a minimum of $50,000 a week being deposited in my bank account every single week, and I don't have to do anything. It just comes in. So I wrote that down. That was my dream, that I do not have to work. I'm traveling around the world, spending money like a drunken sailor, having the time of my life, and $50,000 minimum is just pouring into my bank accounts every single week, and I don't have to do anything for it. And all my friends said, but how are you going to do that? And I said, stop. You don't have to worry about the how. The universe will figure that out. All you have to define is what you want and get in alignment. It has to be something, however, that you feel could actually happen. For most people, for most of you, you don't believe that's even possible. But I knew it was possible because I had a lot of trust fund kids that I was with in the Brotherhood. They had $100 million in a trust fund, earning 10% dividends and interest. They were getting $10 million a year, and they didn't have to do anything, just on dividends and interest. Just on dividends and interest. They could live on that. They could live on that. We just had an interesting glitch with the camera. So I knew it was possible. I knew that some magical thing could happen. I had guys that I knew that got royalties, that they had money coming in from things that they had did, from inventions. I had guys in the Brotherhood that made inventions and got patents, and they got royalties. Hey, I don't know. I wasn't going to patent anything. I wasn't a trust fund kid, but I knew it was possible. And I also know that it's off the radar screen, and I don't have to figure it out. All I have to know that it's possible, and I'll let the universe figure it out. So I was with these guys, and I wrote this down, and you have to write it down. And I saw myself in possession of this, and I felt now as if I was actually living that dream. And then I released attachment to the outcome. About 2 weeks later, I was in New York City, staying at the Plaza Hotel, in the largest suite in the Plaza Hotel. And I wanted to go to a famous deli called the Carnegie Deli. They were famous for their corned beef and pastrami sandwiches. So I went to the Carnegie Deli, and they have these long tables. And at each table, there's maybe 8 or 9 chairs on one side, 8 or 9 chairs on another side. And you sit at this table, so you're kind of sitting next to someone you don't know. And you're sitting across from the person you're with. So if it's busy, there's a person over here you don't know, there's a person over here you don't know, and it's busy. So I sat down, and I ordered a Danny Rose sandwich, which is a half corned beef, half pastrami, on rye, of course. And there's mustard at the table, and you put mustard on it. It's about this big. So I get my Danny Rose sandwich. I'm with my girlfriend at the time. And the guy sitting right next to my girlfriend, right there, I look at him, and I'm thinking, oh, he looks familiar. I'm in New York. A lot of famous people go to this place. So I look at him, and then it rings a bell, because I am a memory expert. And I said to him, hey, your name is Bobby Singer, the blackjack expert. He goes, that's right. I said, I've seen you on TV do those infomercials, and I actually bought your course on how to make money playing blackjack, called the Bobby Singer Method. And it was basically how to count playing cards and how to use a basic betting strategy so you could win. And Bobby Singer was so good, he's banned from playing blackjack. He was in what's called the Griffin book. So he was banned. He didn't do anything illegal. They just say, you're too good for us. Even though you're playing legal, you're not cheating. It's 100% legal. The casinos have the right to say, we don't want your play. So he's been banned. So rather than play blackjack, he decided to sell a course on it. So I bought it. And I said, hey, listen, I bought your course. And it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And he goes, how did you do with it? And I says, well, it was really easy for me because I'm a memory expert. I can remember all the playing cards, so it's really easy. He goes, what do you mean a memory expert? I goes, well, yeah, I teach memory training. I teach people how to improve their memory. We do seminars around the world, blah, blah, blah. And he said, you should record one of those seminars, put it on cassette tape, and sell it on a TV infomercial. And I said, well, actually, you don't know our business and our customer. That's not going to work because the people that buy our course generally are salespeople, business professionals, because they want to make money and they need to remember names or, product codes or things like that. And in business, a powerful memory means money. Good memory means more money in business. So I don't think it'll sell on television. And he goes, no, it'll definitely sell on TV. I said, no, I don't think it will. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what, I'll put up all the money. I'll shoot the infomercial. I'll do everything and just pay you a royalty. So what do you got to lose? I go, well, I really wouldn't want to do that because I don't want you to waste your money. I would feel terrible about you investing in the production of a TV infomercial, investing in the production of the product, investing in the inventory of the product, investing in buying media and testing it out. You could lose $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. I would feel terrible about that. He goes, no, I'll risk it because I think it'll work. Here's my business card. He goes, give me your contact details. I'm going to send you a contract. We're going to do a deal. I said, I think this is a big mistake because I don't think it's going to work. It's a true story. I go back to the Plaza Hotel. I pick up the phone, and back then, we didn't have cell phones. This is 1988. I pick up the phone, and I call my home phone where my answering machine is, and I hit the code in to see if there's any messages. And there's a message from a guy named Dr. Alex Duarte, good friend of mine. He goes, Kevin, it's Dr. Duarte. I'm in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and I bumped into an old friend of yours, Ed Beckley. Ed Beckley did one of the first TV infomercials in 1984 called The Millionaire Maker. How to buy real estate with no money down. Ed asked me what you were doing, and I told him about the success of your memory training business. And Ed said that you should put that on cassette tape, make it into a home study course, and sell it on TV. He'll put up all the money, give me a call. Are you getting chills down your body right now as you're listening to this? 2 weeks earlier, I put together, this is what I want. And in 2 weeks, on the same day, I got two people offering to put up all the money to do a TV infomercial for a memory course. I don't even see that this is an answer to my prayer. I don't even get it. That's how dumb I was. How slow, right? Because it was off the radar screen. So I call up Ed Beckley and go, listen, I met this guy named Bobby Singer. He goes, I know Bobby Singer. Bobby's terrific. I says, well, why should I go with you versus Bobby? He goes, you can go with Bobby. Bobby will do a great job. He's a great guy. I think I'll do a better job. I'd like to work with you. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, whoever sends me the contract first is who I'll go with, but I both think you're dumb because I don't think it's going to work. A week later, via Federal Express. Now, back then, if you got the Federal Express man to come to your house, it was like the biggest thing since sliced bread. So I remember the Federal Express man coming, ringing the doorbell to the office and handing me a Federal Express envelope. And everybody in the office is going, ooh, the Federal Express guy, ooh. So I opened it up. It's a contract from my good friend, Ed Beckley. And he was working with a guy named Kevin Harrington. Some of you may know him. Kevin Harrington, super great guy, him and his brother Tim. They owned a company called Quantum Marketing back then. Kevin Harrington was one of the first sharks on the US version of Shark Tank. So we get on the phone, we tweak the contract a little bit, and I sign it. About a week later, I get the contract Also from Federal Express, from Bobby Singer. So I had to call up Bobby Singer and say, hey, Bobby, sorry, but I signed with Ed Beckley. He sent me the contract a week ago. He goes, man, I think I blew a lot of profits. By the way, years later, Bobby Singer and I were at the head table of a convention for the National Infomercial Marketing Association where I was actually deemed the infomercial king. And Bobby Singer says, you know, by missing that contract by 1 week, probably cost you around $30 million in profits. I go, cost you a lot more. He was like, oh no, I was slow. If I was faster. I go, yeah, Bobby, I know. So we signed the contract and I said, look, this infomercial, how do you do an infomercial? They said, well, we have to write a script. I go, I'm not an actor. I'm not reading a teleprompter. I'm not doing a script. I go, let me tell you what we're going to do. I said, you're going to basically just fill a room with people. I'm going to get up there and do the same presentation I do all the time and just film it. That's all you have to do. You mean you don't need a teleprompter? I go, I do this presentation every day. I know how to do it. Just, I'll show up in a suit and tie. You put makeup on me, put a microphone on me, say go. I will give my presentation, film it, and we're done. You just edit the call to action, maybe get a couple testimonials from some of my students, put that in, and you're good. They go, this will be the easiest infomercial and the cheapest we've ever shot. And Ed said, but I think it's going to work. So we went to Fairfield, Iowa, which is the transcendental meditation capital of the world. And we got a studio there with Hawthorne Marketing. They had the studio, and we worked with them, and Ed Beckley was working with them. So they got the cameras, and they built the set. They filled it up with people. And I went in there, and I shot the show, and I went home. My total time commitment was flying in the night before, shooting the show in the morning, flying out that afternoon. I did nothing else. About 6 weeks later, the show was edited and put on the air. And it was working. People were buying. About 8 weeks later, I got my first royalty check. And it was deposited on a Friday. Remember I told you I want a check being deposited in my account every week. The first check, the first one, was over $100,000 for the week, my royalty. I remember my biggest check was over 580-something thousand for the week. For the week. Every Friday, I got a check for way over $50,000. Way over $50,000. We did over $450 million in sales of that one product over the years. My royalty was over 10%. So you can do the math. You get what you ask for. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and bring itself to believe, which means it has confidence that it can actually happen, it can achieve. You have to get in alignment. Now, most of you don't know, this infomercial came out in 1989. How would you like to see that infomercial? You can't find it. We found it. Now, it was recorded in 1989. The quality isn't so great. But I want you to watch this for a couple reasons. Number one, I'm speaking extemporaneously. There were no retakes. There was no reshoots. It was one take. Everything you see there is real and live. All the testimonials are real, 100% normal people. And you're going to see 1989. This was shot and started to air. And I want you to see me in 1989. And notice if there's any difference besides the fact that I was younger. But notice how I talk. Notice my voice inflection. Notice my hand gestures. Notice the cadence. You're going to see something, and maybe you'll have an aha moment. So take a look at the very first time I went on TV as an infomercial, going on to become the infomercial king, producing more TV infomercials, winning infomercials than anybody else in history, producing the highest percentage of winning infomercials than anybody else in history, and I think producing the highest dollar volume in today's dollars, if you were converted today's dollars, than anybody else in history. That's why I have the title the Infomercial King and a marketing genius and America's marketing guru. and the master of modern day marketing, etc., etc. So take a look at this infomercial from Mega Memory 1989.
Yes, you can have a photographic memory.
I feel like I'm using more of my mind. I don't know. They say that you only use a fraction of your brain, and I feel like I've been using more of my brain ever since I've taken this memory course.
The impact from the memory course is so powerful. Now my memory is 700% more powerful than it was before.
You can get better grades with less study time.
Before I took the course, I'd study about 3 hours a night, and my GPA was a 2.5. Now that I've taken the memory course, I only study about an hour a night, and my GPA has skyrocketed to a 3.5. It is definitely the best thing I've ever done.
Having a better memory will enable me to get better grades in school and higher SAT scores, and that'll give me a chance to go to the college I want to.
You can build self-confidence and self-esteem.
Having a better memory does develop more self-confidence and more self-esteem. In my business, I need to know what's going on, and I need to keep on top of things.
You can make more money with a better memory.
Having a good memory translates to dollars by your ability to network. When you network with people and you know their name, they get to know you, they like you, there's good rapport, they want to do business with you. It all comes down from that original remembering them. That translates to dollars.
I probably read every memory course that was commercially available. Some of them were excellent, some of them were lousy. But after 2 hours with this genius, Kevin Trudeau, I am absolutely convinced we have on our hands a revolutionary breakthrough in memory enhancement.
The power of your mind is unlimited. It can build machines that explore the bottom of the ocean and land men on the moon. Every part of our life, work, and play relies on the mind and memory. Why is it that with an instrument more sophisticated than any computer, most of us remember less than 10% of what we learn in school and less than 10% of the people's names we meet? Yet now a technological breakthrough has determined that, as incredible as it sounds, every person has a photographic memory just waiting to be unleashed. Stay tuned, get a pencil and paper, and in the next 30 minutes you'll be able to take a test to find out just how good your memory really is and learn to unleash the power of your own mega memory. Featuring Kevin Trudeau, author, lecturer, and America's foremost memory expert. Kevin is president and founder of the world's largest memory training company, the American Memory Institute. Kevin has appeared on television and radio talk shows throughout the country and has taught his revolutionary memory techniques to thousands, including many Fortune 500 companies. Now, let's allow Kevin to show you how you can develop a mega memory.
Thanks. What I really want to talk about now is everyone's favorite subject. And help me out, what's everyone's favorite subject here? Money, all right. Anything else? Food, okay. So I get food a lot. I think that's pretty high on the priority list. It's funny, no matter where I go when I speak, people always give me different answers for their favorite subjects. I think a lot of them are pretty high on the priority list. But studies have shown that a person's favorite subject is really themselves. And in order for you and I, as people in our lives, to inspire others to like us and give us some of their business, we first have to show genuine interest and concern in them. You know, it was also discovered that a person's name is actually the sweetest sound in the language to that person. But how many of us actually use that fact to our advantage every day in our lives by remembering and using people's names? Let me ask you all a question here by a show of hands, and be honest. How many here has actually happened to at least once? You walk up to someone, you shake hands, that person gives you their name. And then as soon as that handshake breaks, the name just kind of drops right to the floor. Does that happen to anybody here? Sure, all of you. I always kid, if you didn't raise your hand to that one, maybe you didn't understand the question. It's happened to all of us at least once or twice. And it's embarrassing, isn't it? You know, you're at a cocktail party and you're chatting with someone. All of a sudden your spouse comes over and you can't even make a proper introduction. It's embarrassing. But in a business situation, not only is that embarrassing to you, maybe it's costing you some money. You know, I always kid, you always remember someone's face, but you usually have a hard time remembering the name. You walk into a bank and say, remember your face? I never forget a face. What's the next thing you say? But I'm terrible at names. I never remember people's names. I always kid. I don't think anyone's ever walked up to you and said, you know, I remember your name, but what's your face? Usually it doesn't work that way. Usually remember the things that we hear and not the things that we see. Let's talk about education just for a moment. I know a lot of us send our children to school every day to do well. That's why we send them to find schools. We want them to learn a lot of information, get into the college of their choice, get into their careers, the job of their choice, so they can make the money that they want to make. We want them to be successful. But you know, studies have proven today that our children are under increasing amounts of pressure and stress to get what? Good grades. And a lot of us as parents get frustrated because we're looking at our own children thinking, why? They study, how come they can't do well? And it hurts us because it really is hurting the self-image of our children. Well, see, kids need tools to get the job done, to get the A's. Just like if we sent a mechanic in to fix a car, we would give that mechanic tools, specific tools to do the job. We wouldn't say, go in and fix the car, but we're not going to give you any tools to do it. Good luck. Wouldn't work. We send our kids to school, though, with the same attitude. Go to school, we want you to do well, but of course, good luck. We hope you do well. You see, memory, being able to recall information, is the actual foundation of learning. Learning and memory go hand in hand. A student, in order to do well in school, needs to have a good memory. He needs to be able to recall information.
In 6th grade, I would take spelling tests every Friday. And every Thursday, I would take my spelling paper home and study it. And now every Friday, I would go there, and I wouldn't remember even half of them. And after, in 7th grade, with my spelling, and after the memory course, now I can just take my thing home, take my paper home, relate it with the memory course, and go the next day and get them all right. It's great.
Well, I just took a real estate course, and I applied the memory techniques to learning the terminology. There were so many mortgages and different listing agreements to remember. It was mind-boggling. So I just applied the simple techniques, and it really worked. I took my test. It was successful. I'm a real estate broker. I'm psyched.
My son related a story that he came home from school and was asked a number of questions on an oral exam, and his self-esteem was improved greatly as a result of the memory course, because before he never would volunteer to give answers in class because he wasn't sure if he'd remember the answers or whether they were right. And now he can remember a lot more answers, and he's very much happier as a result of that.
I remember being at a function. There were about 50 people, and I walked into the room and I applied the memory techniques. And at the end of the night, during the night also, I remembered everybody's name. And I left addressing everybody by the name, and everybody was like really impressed.
Isn't that good? Is that good? You know, every time I see students benefit from the program like you just saw, it really makes me feel good about what we're doing at the Institute. How many people here, by a show of hands, were impressed by the results of those students? Sure. It excites me, too. Now, a student just a few months ago take our program, and he was flunking calculus straight across the board, straight F's. And he came in, he said, you know, I can't remember the formulas for calculus. He said, Kevin, if I could remember these formulas, I would do real well. I said, okay, well, let me show you how. By using this mind, how you can remember all the formulas. So in about 3 minutes, told him how to recall the formulas. Couldn't believe it. He said, I got an exam tomorrow. He says, I'm going to come back to class and tell you how I did. Comes back to class the next day. I said, well, how did you do? You know, we're all really interested. He says, well, I got some good news, I got some bad news. He says, the good news is I got a 100% on my exam. That kind of blew me away. That was exciting. I said, well, what's the bad news? He says, the bad news is they wouldn't accept the exam. They figured I must have cheated because I was getting straight F's. I said, you can? He says, no. He said, I got to take it again tomorrow in the principal's office. I said, well, how are you going to do? He said, I'm still going to get 100. He said, because it's committed to memory. Well, not only did this child's academics improve, but guess what else improved? His self-image. You're exactly right. The way he looked at himself. He felt better about himself because now, instead of thinking that he wasn't adequate, that he wasn't any good, now he knew he was good. He knew that he could go forward in life. But you know, memory techniques, it's not new. It's been around for thousands of years. It goes back to the time of Julius Caesar. But until just very recently, all memory techniques were very cumbersome and difficult to use and learn. Well, see, at the Institute, we had a theory that each person actually has a perfect photographic memory right now lying dormant, an ability you already have. Now, we weren't sure if that was true. So I did research developing what we thought to be some very simplified, very powerful, and very revolutionary memory technology and techniques.
I conducted a study in the Oklahoma School for the Blind in Muskogee. V.R. Carter, the superintendent of schools, invited us in. And the same techniques that are taught at the Mega Memory program with Kevin Trudeau were first developed there. We developed a technique to teach the students so that they were able to go from 15% recallability up to 90%. We repeated the work with learning disabled students, and they again were able to get up to 90% recallability. We found then that this was an ability that everyone had. It could be taught to anyone.
What I want to do now is I want to do a little demonstration to show you what can be done when you have a trained memory. Now, before I do this, it's important that you all realize none of you forget anything. Every time I say that, now someone has to be thinking, oh, he doesn't know my memory. I forget things all the time. Some of you probably forgot how to get here today. No, you don't forget things. The problem is recalling information when you need it. See, every bit of information you see and hear is in the memory. The only problem is it's misfiled. Let me give you an example. You're maybe a student. You're going to take an exam, and you look at question 7, and you think, we just covered that in class yesterday, or I just read that last night. And you blank out on question 7. And you stare, and you think, doesn't come back to you. Put the paper down, pass the paper in, you walk out of the room, and as soon as you hit the doors, guess what pops into your mind? Boom, the answer. So it's obviously here, isn't it? It just gets misfiled. Example, you've seen filing cabinets. In those filing cabinets, you can actually put hundreds of files, bits of information all filed away in an order. If I asked any one of you, Keith, find me the Jones file. Ellen, find me the Harris file. You could go within seconds, have that information you need at your fingertips. But what would happen if we took the same files and I emptied them on the floor in this room and we mixed them all up? We called this the file pile. And I said, Suzanne Potts, can you find me the Jones file? You'd say, yeah, can you call me next Friday? I have to go through this big mess. Your mind is exactly the same way. You meet people every day. You shake their hands and get their names. You have telephone conversations. If you're a student, you sit in lecture classes, you read books, you read materials, you attend seminars and training sessions. All you're doing is taking information and throwing it in the Grand Canyon of your mind. It's like taking a file folder and throwing it into a room arbitrarily. Then when you try to go back to recall it and you see this person that you met 3 weeks ago, you think, oh, what's the name? The mind says, sorry, I forgot. You did not forget. It's here. The only problem is it's misfiled. Now, when we work with those blind and mentally handicapped children, we actually developed a way to teach anyone how to develop mental file folders in your mind. So virtually anything you see or hear automatically goes into a mental file. Then when you try to go back to recall it, whether it be a person's name or something for a test or something you heard or something you read, it instantly pops back. Instead of saying, I remember your face, you come back and say, Lisa Phillips, nice to meet you. Now I'm going to do a little demonstration for you to show you what can be done when you have a trained memory. Now I had a chance to meet most of you as you came in today, so I do remember your names. What I'm going to do is go around the room, call you out randomly by name. When I call on you, I want you to call out to the group a word. Any word at all, and we'll jot it down. Peter, why don't we start with number 1?
Sunday.
Sunday, where it says number 1 in your papers, everyone write down Sunday. All right, Ron for number 2?
Car.
Car for number 2. How about Rick for number 3?
Lunch.
Lunch for number 3. How about, how about Lisa? Lisa Phillips for number 4?
Football.
Football for number 4. How about Jack for number 5?
Sunlight.
Sunlight, good for number 5. How about, for number 6, let's go to Carol for number 6.
House.
House for number 6. How about Henry? 7.
Egg.
Egg for number 7. And how about Bruce for number 8?
Cadillac.
Cadillac for number 8. How about Michael, Dr. Michael Harrison in the back?
Wristwatch.
Wristwatch for number 9. And how about Roy? Number 10?
Apple.
Apple for number 10. 11, how about Maxine?
Ring.
Ring for number 11. 12, let's go to Suzanne.
Consciousness.
Consciousness for number 12. 13, let's go to Mary Alice.
Hambone.
Hambone for number 13. And 14, let's go to Sandy Miller.
Girls.
Girls for 14. And how about Heather for number 15?
Kangaroo.
Kangaroo for 15, great. Now this is called processing and organizing information. As I mentioned, none of you forget anything, you just misfile things. Now, let me see if I can recall these by memory. I think they go something like this. Number 1 is Sunday, 2 was car, 3 was lunch, 4 was football, 5 was sunlight, 6 was house, 7 was egg, 8 was let's see, Cadillac, 9 was wristwatch, 10 was Apple, 11 was ring, 12 was consciousness, 13 was ham bone, 14 was girls, and 15, of course, was kangaroo. Now, backwards we go, kangaroo, girls, then we have ham bone, consciousness, ring, then Apple, wristwatch, Cadillac, then we have egg, house, sunlight, football, lunch, car, and of course the first one was Sunday. That's forwards and backwards by memory. Now, thank you. You know, every time I do this, people can be impressed with that demonstration, and I think it's impressive. But don't be impressed with that. See, I'm not anyone special. All I have is a trained memory. And folks, the fact is each one of you can do that. And not just with 15 things. You can do 50 things, 100 things, 1,000. Because you all have a perfect memory right now. The only difference is it's untrained. Now imagine if each one of you could do exactly what I just did, and you can now. But imagine if you've had it trained. In only a few short hours, that's what the Mega Memory program is all about. We can teach anyone how to release the memory that you already have. Now, if you're a student, do you think an improved memory, if you can do this, listen to everything the teacher says and recall it for test time? Or how about read a textbook and be able to recall it for test time? How many people here feel that if you were a student, your grades would dramatically improve? Of course, because learning and memory go hand in hand. Memory is the foundation of learning. It makes sense. So this is what Mega Memory is all about. Something that each one of you can do right now.
Yes, you can have a photographic memory. Get better grades and higher test scores, cut study time by 50%, and have more fun. Remember every person's name you meet, even hundreds at a time. Learn a foreign language in days. Have phone numbers, important facts, and trivia at the tip of your tongue. Easily make money in games of chance. Excel on college entrance exams. Amaze your friends with your newfound powers and much, much more. Here's what you'll get. 8 specially designed power-packed cassettes containing Kevin Trudeau's simple yet effective techniques that will within minutes begin to release your own perfect memory. You'll also receive the easy-to-follow workbook that will reinforce your newly discovered ability and guarantee success. And if you order right now, you'll receive as a special bonus how to make $1,000 in the next 30 days using your new Mega Memory. This report alone could pay for the entire program many times over. This is a gift your entire family will enjoy for a lifetime. Imagine what this Mega Memory program could do for advancing your career, putting dollars in your pocket, and increasing your children's grades and self-esteem. But you won't pay $500. Now, as a special first-time television offer, this memory breakthrough can be yours for the incredibly low price of $59.95. Just pennies a day to give you and your children the advantage you need for getting ahead today. Kevin is so sure that this Mega Memory program will work for you that you may use the program and within a 30-day period. If your memory hasn't improved at least 500%, then send the program back and receive a full refund. Don't hold your children or yourself back any longer.
I'm a businessman, and I look at investments in relationship to the value I receive. The money that I paid for the course, I got 100 times value back for what I paid.
One of the most rewarding results of taking this course was I had my children in the course with me. My oldest son is now in college. He's a junior. He's on academic scholarship, makes straight A's, and I really believe the memory course has had a lot to do with that.
Before I took the course, I'd study about 3 hours a night, and my GPA was a 2.5. Now that I've taken the memory course, I only study about an hour a night, and my GPA is skyrocketed to a 3.5. It is definitely the best thing I've ever done.
Tosh, you have a question?
Kevin, will this course really help me get better grades in high school and college?
Tosh, as a high school student, or even as a college student, or a grad student, or a grade school student, a good memory is going to dramatically improve a student's grades. No question. Because memory is the whole foundation of learning. If you learn something, you have to be able to recall it. Bottom line. Now let me ask you a question. The next test that you're going to take, if you could bring with you all of your notes, would you probably do real well on that test? Yeah, no question about it, right? You definitely do well in the exam because you had all your notes there. Well, that's what the Mega Memory program is all about. It teaches people to develop a photographic memory so that anything you want, whether it be anything you read or anything you hear or see,
can be recalled anytime you want in the future. So if you have your notes and you commit them to memory, it's just like walking in with them to the next test, which means A on the exam. You know, we've had students study in about 1/3 the time, and they finish their 3-hour exams in about an hour, straight A's, because they can recall instantly all the information that they need to recall. Memory equals good grades. Aisha, you have a question?
Yes, I have 2 children. I'd like to know at what ages can they begin benefiting from the program?
It depends. We say about 6, 7, 8 is when they can start, and you can actually assist your child go through the home study course at that age. Once they hit 9 or 10, they usually can pick up the course on their own. Now, the great thing about children, about students who are in school, we want our students, our children to do well. We want them to get A's. But A's and B's are really not just letters on a piece of paper. It's really a child's ticket, it's a passport to whether they're going to get into the college of their choice, whether they're going to get into the career and get the job and make the money they want with their future. So as parents, I think it means a lot to us if those children get the grades they are capable of getting. And we really need to give our children the tools that they need in order to do the job. Good question. Lisa Phillips, you have a question?
Yes, is this program hard to learn, and do you have to study and study?
I get that a lot. People always are afraid, boy, if I take this program, do I have to practice every single night? And, if I don't use it, will I lose it? And the answer is no, you don't have to practice. Once you learn these techniques, once your mind has been exercised, what actually happens is the ability has been released. It's not a skill you're learning. Example, if you ever learn how to ride a bike, drive a 4-speed manual transmission in a car, or learn how to swim, once you learned how, do you ever have to go back and take swimming lessons? Of course not. Even if you haven't gotten a pool for 20 years and I throw you in the deep end, guess what happens? You swim. You don't drown, you swim. Because it was an ability that was released. Same thing here with the memory. Once the memory has been exercised, it's like speaking a language. It's like walking. You do it automatically. It's extremely easy to pick up. And once you pick it up, it's locked in for life.
During the first lesson, I got results. It was so easy, I couldn't even believe it. It was just amazing, and it was so much fun.
The first day, the things that he taught improved me so much that when I got there, maybe I could remember 5 things. When I got out of there, 90 things. He just improved it so much.
People always ask me and say, Kevin, how did you get involved in memory? How did you develop such a powerful memory for yourself? Well, the fact is, I did not have a good memory most of my life. See, in 1979, I was an LD child, had a learning speech impediment. I was flunking out of high school. I was 45 pounds overweight, had a dead-end job, a beat-up car, didn't feel good about myself. My future did not look very bright. I tried to improve myself, but nothing seemed to work, until I met a man who was a millionaire, speaking one evening on success. Now, 3 years previous, he was a body shop mechanic, so I figured he knew something I didn't know. I followed him after this little lecture to a Denny's restaurant. There was about 5 people that happened to follow him. I was lucky enough to sit down next to him. He shared with me that night till 4 o'clock in the morning, principles of success. And I furiously took down notes. The most important thing that man taught me that night, he said, Kevin, knowledge is power, but only if you can remember it. Isn't that powerful? That literally changed my whole life. Because I took that, I thought, I can't remember anything. That's why I'm not going forward. So I began to seek out ways to improve my own memory. Nothing really seemed to work. I read all the books, I went to all the seminars, listened to all the tapes. Nothing worked for me. Until I met a man who was doing research with blind children, handicapped children. Him and I got together, and together we pioneered this whole way of how the memory and mind actually worked. And that's when my life changed, because I could now remember things. I could use things. It made all the difference. I found out that it's true. Knowledge is power, but only if you can remember it. See, this will work for you, because I know it's worked for me. It's changed my life. I know it can change your life. I'd like to share with you a poem I think is real special. It goes, it's not what you eat, but it's what you digest that makes you strong. It's not what you earn, but what you save that brings you wealth. And it's not what you learn in life, but rather what you remember that makes you wise. What I want to do now is go back to the list. I'd like anyone here in the room to call out any number on that list. I'll immediately tell you the word you called. Or call out any of the words, I'll immediately tell you the number. Okay, can we begin? Number and item. Apple is number 10. Cross it off on your sheet, folks, so you know this thing called. Number 8, of course, was Cadillac. Cross it off. 6 was house, and 15 was kangaroo. 4 was football. 7 was egg. Cross them off. 12 was consciousness. Cross it off. 11 was ring. Cross it off. 5 was sunlight. Cross it off. 14 was girls. Hold on just for a second. Let me now tell you the ones you didn't call. You didn't call number 1, which was Sunday. You didn't call 2, which was car. You didn't call 3, which is lunch. You also didn't call number 9, which was wristwatch. You didn't call number 13, which was ham bone. And that's all of them by memory.
Having a bit of memory definitely translates to money. As a matter of fact, it is money, because if you remember things, people, places, facts, it will help you in every facet of your life, in the business world, in education. And if you have a better mind, more knowledge, you can make more money.
I had an 800% increase in my memory retention from learning the fundamentals that the course gave me and then applying that to my business.
You should really take the course. It's so important to have a good memory. There's so much to remember, so little time, so many people to be, so many places to go. You don't want to forget who you're going to go see and where you're going. So take the course. It's great.
Mega Memory. By the way, you can't even buy Mega Memory today, but you do get it for free. And if you haven't gone through the Mega Memory course, I recommend you do. It's free of charge to Global Information Network members. So when you become a member in the Global Information Network, you get it for free. In addition to, you get Mega Speed Reading, Mega Math, how to do math calculations in your head, Ellen Kreidman's Light Her Fire Relationship Program, John Gray's Relationship Program, the Emily Post Institute Etiquette course. There's virtually over 100,000 hours, I believe, of training on various subjects in our subject-specific area of the Global Information Network member-only website, all free of charge to members. So if you want the Mega Memory, that's where I'm sure you can find a cassette version someplace. Somebody's selling one, but who has a cassette player? I think at one point we did up them to CDs, but it's obviously a great course. So highly encourage you to do that. But the reason I showed you that is just to give you an idea of the power of the techniques and the techniques work. If you apply this material, you can be, do, and have whatever you want. And it starts with be. You have to be the person first from the inside. That's when you have things. So it first starts with beingness. Be, do, and have. First starts with beingness. That relates to doing the proper activity, which creates results. And that relates into having. That's when you actually attain things. But you have to be first. Be, another way of saying it is you have to have the right attitude. You have to have the attitude first before you get the money. You have to have the attitude first before you have something. Most people think, once I get the money, then I'll have the attitude. That's not how it works. You have to have the attitude first, and then the money will come. Because when you have the attitude right, then your activities, the doing, the action steps, will actually produce results. And you'll do the right things. You'll feel good about it. You'll love the journey. Success is the journey. Success is the reward. And that's when you attain things. It does absolutely work. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to show you in the future here. I got also a couple other TV infomercials back in the day, some of the older ones on some of the other infomercials. I'm going to show you those too here in the future. So stay tuned. You're going to see some cool things here on this show, which is not just a history lesson, but if you paid attention and watched, you see success principles in action, and you see the results. I'm Kevin Trudeau. Thanks for watching. Remember, you can make all your dreams come true. You do have what it takes. You are a winner. Take action. Do the right things long enough consistently. Remember, winners are always willing to do what the other guys are not willing to do. Step up, stand out, make a decision. Success is a decision away. God loves you, and so do I. We'll see you next time.